on. They compete throughout the year, both at home and abroad. But this weekend, they will perform not for the judges, but for the throngs of people celebrating St. Paddy's Day. We're talking about Irish dancers. Virginia Johnson went on the town to a Bay Area dance studio to see their final rehearsals.
When you strip away the costumes, pearls, and the makeup, you're left
no laziness
with energy.
Irish dancers nowadays, when they reach a high level, are training like athletes train.
These performers rehearsing at the Gillan Irish Dance School represent more than 100 years of experience. Today's rehearsal is in the hard shoe. That's what drew in Bryn Archibald.
Where I could really bang it out and make a lot of noise, and I just thought that was fun.
15 years into her career, performing for the St. Paddy's Day revelers never gets old.
It's a lot of fun. I like seeing their reactions, and sometimes there are people who try to join in on the dancing a little bit.
Especially if some of them, because it's St. Patrick's Day, have had a few drinks. And they're really joining in the fun and really excited. Just gives you such a great buzz.
I have this passion for it, I guess. It just keeps drawing me back in.
Rachel Kelleher has tried to quit twice. She's 20 years in now, and along with Bryn, that's countless competitions, performances, and rehearsals.
It's not something that you can kind of pick up right away and be good at right away. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of hours.
Very brutal practice, but it helps because it pays off in the long run.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Dance instructor Philip Owens says he's counting on these veterans to absorb his lifetime of dance experience.
It will never die because I'm passing on to them, and when I'm gone, they will be passing on to somebody else. So it really keeps the culture alive, and it keeps Irish dance alive.
In Tampa, Virginia Johnson, Spectrum Bay News 9.
Welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, and my special guest today, and of course the show is in support of the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. My very special guests here today are Terry Gillan and Philip Owens, both living in Florida now, and both well-renowned Irish dancing teachers and adjudicators with Coimisiún le Rinci Gaelacha, the organization we all love. Just before we started, I was asking Terry and Philip how they actually ended up in Florida via Ireland. So tell me, Philip.
Well, I was saying to you, Mary, first of all, 10 a.m. here in the morning, and it's already 29 degrees.
God almighty.
7 today. But, you just get used to it, and, So we came over to America from Ireland, and first we're living in New Jersey with our very good friend Patsy McLaughlin, who took us in kind of as homeless people while we were looking for our first place. We lived with Patsy for the first few months, and then we got our first condo in New Jersey, and we were living in New Jersey for 3-4 years. We then made a move to Connecticut, where we were for several years, and then decided that we didn't like the cold, snow and ice anymore. So we came down to sunny Florida.
You love it?
Yeah, I love it. I'm not so sure, Terry will tell you, the heat gets to him a little bit.
Does the heat get the heat gets to you, Terry?
I love it from maybe October through to March or April. But then come May, June and July, it's like somebody turned on the hot water tap, and it just doesn't stop. It rains, it gets up to 106 degrees. We still, in America, we use Fahrenheit, and it always makes it sounds more dramatic when you say it's 110. 29 doesn't really sound exciting, but 106 is horrible. So yeah, if I was a millionaire, I would have the best of both worlds, and I'd live here for the summer, and or I'd live here for the winter rather, and I'd go back up north for the winter. But unfortunately, I'm not a millionaire, so it's one of the other.
Does it affect you, Terry? You're diabetic, aren't you?
I'm diabetic.
Would the heat affect your diabetes in any way?
No, the heat doesn't affect it, but what it does do is I don't drink enough water. I hate water, so it's not my thing. So it doesn't get dehydrated, you know. So I tend not to go out a lot when it's this hot. We go from air conditioning to air conditioning to air conditioning, and just stay out the heat. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. It's a big change from Ireland.
Huge.
Because it's raining here 24 hours of the day nearly. I mean, it's just pretty miserable. You can't do anything. You know, I don't think we're pleased anyway. But Philip, before we started, you were kind of briefly telling me about your entrance into Irish dancing from day one.
Into Irish dancing was unusual, Mary, because as a young baby, I had some lower back issues and spine issues, and I had several surgeries as a young baby in the first 2-3 years of my life. And then when I was about, you know, maybe 5-6 years of age, my orthopedic surgeon recommended to my mother and father that I should take up some sort of dancing, like to use your legs and feet a lot. And, you know, there was a dancing teacher who used to come into my school, into my primary school, by the name of Peter Bolton.
Oh,
he
yes.
Old dancing teacher in Dublin. His daughter, Helena and Colette, still teach dance, and in turn their children are now teaching. So Peter was teaching in my school, and I was dancing with him in my school, and then I asked him about going to his regular dancing class. And that's how I got involved in dance. It was kind of funny. You know, we did it in school, but I never thought about doing it further until this surgeon recommended it.
Yeah, and you found it really great.
Oh yeah, I started going to Peter's class in the city of Dublin, and I loved it. I loved it from the start.
And how about you, Terry? Did you love it from the minute you started?
Yeah, mine doesn't have any kind of background like that. I was born in Glasgow.
Yeah, you were.
So my family of Irish background, and all of my family can sing, and some of them are professional or were professional singers. I cannot sing. I cannot play a musical instrument. So dancing is where I was kind of ended up. I went with my next door neighbor just for something to do, because boys got to go free, so it was great.
Oh, really?
And yeah, at that time. And my I had the same dance teacher all through my dancing career, bar one small break at the time of the split. But I had a very good dance teacher. Her name is Mary Honan. She was a student of, I'm sure you know who Laureen O'Neill is in Washington. Yes. So Laureen's mom taught my dancing teacher, as she taught many other dance teachers in Scotland.
You know, it's such a small community, even though it's gigantic. You know, everyone knows of or knows everyone. You know.
It's funny, and it's funny when I see Laureen. She reminds me so much of my dance teacher. It must have been a thing, very poised, very graceful. That's the kind of dance teacher I had, and I just liked it. And I got to meet loads of other people, and I was kind of hooked. You know, it was just one of those things that I liked, and I seemed to be quite good at it. So, you know, it went from just being an hour's class once a week to the usual, 2 hours. Then there was a class around the corner from me, and I went to that, and I ended up going to dancing like 4 or 5 times a week. Gave it up for a little bit in the middle during school for maybe like a year, and then went back. And, you know, the rest of it, then I became a teacher, etc., etc.
Were you both always commission, or were you Kogol?
No, Mary. I danced the majority of my life. Well, I was commission at the start.
Yeah.
And then we were here like for the time of the split.
Yeah.
And when the dancing teachers broke away to start on Kogol, and my teacher at the time went to on Kogol, so I just had the loyalty to my teacher, so I went.
Right, yeah.
So the majority of my dancing years were in the Kogol. I have fantastic friends in on Kogol that I'm still friendly with this day. Yeah. I love when I see them. I love when we meet up. I went up to the Kogol World 2 years ago, met all my friends, watched some of the dancing. The dancing is like every bit as beautiful as ours.
Yeah.
Seeing my friends in the Kogol, and I have such happy memories of it.
Yeah.
Later in my career, when I was teaching, Terry had his class, I had my class. He was in commission, I was in Kogol, and in the end, we just decided to go together. And the late Seamus McAnullah, God love him, he used to always say to
Seamus
me,
McAnullah.
so Philip, when are you coming over to us? It's really silly that Terry is with us and you're not. And I used to laugh and say, oh, someday, Seamus. But most of my dancing life was in Cogal, and I have very, very happy memories of all my years there.
Yeah, my friend's daughter was commission, and she was young and very talented dancer as well. But the teacher moved back to Cogal, and Carmel never even realised that there was a difference. You know, Charlotte was still went with Cogal, and it was like when people would say to her, "Is she Commissioner Cogal?" She'd say, "Don't know." And you know, she just went with the teacher wherever the teacher went. You know, because that teacher was living near them, Carmel McKenna. So Carmel went back she came to commission, and then she moved back to Cogal, and the dancers moved back without even realising what the difference was, and there shouldn't really be a difference. I was talking to Patsy and I was talking to June about this open platform. What do you think of the idea of having an open platform, Terry?
I think I posted on Michael Dillon's page, which has been amazing just to catch up with people. In my opinion, a feis is a feis.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to go to a feis, you should be allowed to go. But I do understand people who have reservations about who judges them and the rules and everything else. And my take on it really is, if you don't like what that feis is offering, you just don't go. But I really would like my kids. We find it very difficult here in Florida. We have Cogal and we have the Commission. And so therefore, neither organization has enough competition. So it would be nice for us to be able to allow our dancers go to whatever feis is going on. And it's really hard to explain why they can't without getting into politics of 1969 that people are not interested in. So our kids here call it the other commission. And that's what we like them to call it. And you know, they're like, oh, I sold my dress to the girl dances on the other commission. Who are they? Oh, they're really good. And that's just another group of people who dance. Well, why can't we go to her feis? It's around the corner, because we just can't go. They have theirs and we have ours, and maybe someday we'll get to go. I do think sometimes that people don't know enough about all the other organizations to give like informed opinions.
Yeah.
So I don't think people should give any opinion unless you know. Philip and I, fortunately or unfortunately, through our dancing careers, have been in 3 different organizations. I did all my dancing with Cogal, a very small piece in the middle of my dancing career. When we met and moved to Dublin, we were part of CRN when it formed, and were there for a long number of years. And our lives just took different courses. So I would have been teaching most of my teaching career in the Commission, and I love it. But you know, we always feel that we can comment on the Cogal or comment on CRN because
you have the experience.
And you know, all of them have something good to offer. The other organizations, I don't know anything about them, so I tend not to comment about them. You know, some people have reserves about, you know, the founder members of them and different backgrounds, and I think that's really for you to decide. But open platform dancing, I really don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest with you. I think, you know, I'm very much a believer that, you know, we're all in it to promote Irish culture, Irish dance, and you know, anything we can do to actually make it more known all over the world and more respected, you know, it is hugely respected. But to grow the membership, to grow the interest in it.
Well, back in the day, Mary, Philip just mentioned the late Seamus McAnullah. Seamus McAnullah was a great ambassador for trying to pull it together. And when Philip and I were young commission teachers back in Clondalkin, he with the commission gave us permission to run our feis with Cogal and Commission together. And we just did it with graded people. And it was hugely successful. And it brought back friends who hadn't seen each other.
Yeah.
2 very prominent people, Mona Roddy, who you know, celebrating 50 years this year. Her best friend on closest tours was Minette Kiernan, who was an amazing dancer, and Minnie was in Commission for a bit, but you know, Cogal through and through. So Minnie and Mona judged our feis together. They had never judged together ever, because one was Cogal, one was Commission. And we had to so many times say, ladies, there's a feis going on. Because every time we look at the table, they were, oh, do you remember when we went to France? Oh, do you remember Donica when he did? And I'm like, can you catch up later? And it was amazing. And we've got full support from the Cogal Commission. And I think Patsy mentioned that. I don't think Open Championship is where it starts, and it's not where dancing starts.
Yeah, Patsy mentioned the importance that she thinks of introducing it at grade level, and I happen to agree with her, because I think things all start at beginner level. In everything. People start to divide themselves as children, and they start to learn about difference, or they learn about inclusivity. And I think if you can get it at the grades level.
What I think during all of this COVID-19, everybody loves their organization. Like you said at the start, like your CLRG, and you know, I'm CLRG for many years now. I love, you know, what I do there. I love judging, I love teaching.
Yeah.
I love, you know, the way CLRG is all over the world. And, you know, but one thing I do find about COVID-19, it has brought all dancing teachers.
Hasn't it just?
I feel it doesn't kind of matter what organization people are in. It has made teachers work together again and help each other whatever way they can. And I think that's been wonderful, like with all the organizations, all just talking. I feel there's like friendships have been rekindled. You know, they were there years ago, like, and I really feel it's funny that this virus has brought, you know, dancing teachers more together again.
I was just trying to look up his name. I couldn't think of his first name there. Richard Tew, T-E-W. I'm not sure if that's how Richard spells his name, but Richard contacted me the other day. He's Kogol, and the area he's in, there's only 2 schools, he was saying as well, 1 commission and one Kogol. And I was saying, oh, you must have it fantastic. You have it all just set up between the 2 of you, you know, because it's a big area. But he interviewed me about Irish dancing, and it was just wonderful to be, you know, to have 2 different organizations coming together and just chatting about what at our very heart we all love, which is Irish dancing. You know,
yeah.
I mean,
every organization, like the leaders, like right now, are working so hard to try and keep the organization going, keep things going good. It's you know, it's a tough time, but I think everybody has kind of rallied together in the Irish dancing world to make dancing live on and still be good.
Yeah, and you don't seem to see any lines between who's Kogol Commission, WIDA, CRN. You know, everyone seems to be just talking about, say, dancing and getting involved and talking to each other. I mean, you know, but it is fantastic. We were in Patsy and I were just talking. I'm sure you heard the video about what makes Irish dancing so different from any other industry is that we've, you know, you could know people in China, you could know people in Israel teaching, and you might never have met half of them, but you know them because Irish dancing, okay, it's like a big city that's been made into a village because we've known each other since competition and since 4, 5, 6 years of age up along the line. And there's very few other organizations or jobs that you'd ever take, or career paths that you'd take where you'd know the same people since you were 4 years of age.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is, I think Irish dancing doesn't have an age.
No.
You know, since I was like 20 becoming a young teacher, I was friendly with the same people I'm friendly with now. I'm friendly with people who are now 20 and I'm over 60. We have friends who are, it doesn't have this time lapse of, you know, oh yeah, we talk about young teachers, you know, and I still think they talk about young teachers, they're talking about me, but they're obviously not. You know,
so do I, Terry, so do I.
I'm like, oh, I remember when that used to be me. And or stuff like, you can sit in the middle, you're the senior judge, and I'm like looking to see who they're talking to, and it's me they're talking to.
Can't possibly be talking to me.
It couldn't possibly be me, I'm only here a minute. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that, I mean, Philip and I met Patsy McLaughlin and Peter Smith, you know, a long, long time ago when we were in CRN and the Kogol. We weren't in the commission. So I met Peter Smith long before I was ever in the commission. But they were instrumental in helping us get to America. Patsy was my sponsor when I came here. Philip already had an American passport, but I had to come on a visa, and Patsy was my sponsor. So without her, I would never actually be living in America. Well, I could have been illegally, but that was never going to happen.
How did you have a passport, Philip? Were you born there?
No, Mary. He meant I already had my green card.
Oh, you had it gone.
Yeah, he won a lottery. He won a lottery for
recently this year, but I became a citizen way back. You know,
Did you get one of the Donnelly visas?
I got the Morrison.
I applied at one stage for, I think it was the Donnelly visa, and they told me I'd have to apply for the rest of the world, through the rest of the world. I couldn't be allocated Irish because I was born in the UK.
Same as me, exactly the same as me. So yeah. when I applied for Philip's green card, his niece, Elaine Kavanagh, who you know, who danced,
I love Elaine.
She danced for Philip and I, and myself. And they, at that point, could apply as Ireland. Ireland still had its quota, but I had to apply as the rest of the world.
Me too.
They all got approved, and I didn't.
No, a cousin of mine got approved, and he never even went. He got approved.
Yeah.
And I filled out his form for him. He got approved. He never went. He never went to America. And I wanted to go, and I couldn't go because I had to be put in with all the rest of the world.
Mary, I'll tell you a very strange thing. Patsy's father, Jim, right, was from Leitrim and sounded as if he was from Leitrim
all his life.
Stay on this earth, right? Very funny man. We've great memories of him. But he took me everywhere, like when I got card, the driving license office to get your driving license, the social security office to get your social security card.
That's fantastic.
Around everywhere, but this is the strangest thing that happened. I had applied for my citizenship, and I'm on my second passport now because they last 10 years. I'm on my second American passport now, but back when I applied for my citizenship, I went through whatever you to do, interview and all this business. So finally, I got the letter to tell me the date that I would be sworn in. And it was the day of Patsy's father's anniversary. And we couldn't believe it. I called Patsy and I was like, oh my God, you'll never guess. I'm after getting my date to be sworn in, and it's your dad's anniversary.
I don't believe things like that happen by accident.
Mary, you know, we all just decided that morning, it was snowing out of the heavens, but we got up and we went to Mass for Jim. And then we were going to the place. I nearly had to get out of the car and run in the snow. I was that stressed that we weren't getting there quick enough, you know, but we just thought it was such a strange thing.
I can imagine. I can just see the panic on your face in case you didn't get. What would have happened if you hadn't got there?
Like they would just change the date probably because they'd know the weather was bad that morning. But it was just the thing of it being his anniversary. We still to this day think it was so strange that he brought me everywhere to get everything done. And then the day I was sworn in was his anniversary.
And you got your green card as well eventually, Terry, didn't you?
I did. I eventually got my green card, yeah. And this year I became a citizen. I was sworn in this year. I made it just before COVID-19 shut it all down. So yeah, I was sworn in February as a citizen.
Yeah, and I have a picture actually somewhere of you getting of you being sworn in, Terry.
Well, we always say it's the most expensive passport ever, because before I had that, I had 3 different sets of visas. I had a green card and all the attorney's fees and everything that go with it.
They must be shockingly expensive, because I was shocked and appalled at the amount of money that you pay out for insurance for your classes. When Patsy said something like 1,500 euros or dollars, I thought, what? It's about 300 here to run a FET.
You have to remember as well that we live in a very litigious environment.
Yeah.
So, incidentally, I was able to get Patsy sorted out and get her premium reduced. She was paying for stuff that she really didn't need to pay for, but it's just one of those things, you have to have it. We own our own studio, or we lease our own studio. So from the minute we go in...
That's your studio, isn't it?
Well, that's actually our old studio.
That's your old studio?
That's where Gillan was born, yeah. And that is in a beautiful town in Connecticut, Bethel. Our new studio is not as glamorous looking as that, but this little studio was like a picturesque New England village, is where we lived. When we left that studio, that was taken over by Lisa and Karen Petrie. And they continued teaching and still do teach in Bethel, Connecticut. So yeah, lots of great memories in there. So when you own your own studio, it's not quite like renting the school hall or renting the GAA hall. We are responsible from when you open the door until you leave. Yeah. So good insurance is just necessary all around.
Yeah, but tell me, Terry and Philip, did both of you know each other all through the Cógáil era, and were you together all through Cógáil, or did you just?
We knew each other later on, and like when we kind of became senior dancers, and would like the same competitions, because there's only a year between us, and we won't talk about our competitions, Mary.
I was the best.
You were the best.
I was the winner.
You were the champ. It's like you probably knew cousins of mine, Adrian and Brendan Gavin. Well, they danced together, and Brendan always said I was the champion. But well, technically he was. He won quite a. He was in Danny Armstrong's age group. But the two of them were with Nolans, and there was always the rivalry between the two of them as well. Between Adrian would always be second, Brendan would always win, and that rivalry is still to this day. They love each other dearly, but Brendan will always say, "I was the champion." He was,
Yeah, it's funny, Mary. I mean, but yeah, we did know each other like in senior years of dancing, and both of them ended up like when Terry moved to Dublin, and I'll make that point that he moved to Dublin. Mary, I didn't move to Glasgow. We both ended up doing some dancing then with the great Ita Cadwell.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, and Ita would be saying, like, we'd be in the class, like, now we'll do the new Ace and Juice, but we'll only have Terry dance it tonight because Terry understands the rhythm now. The rest of you just for now.
That's the she's Cora Cadwell's mother.
Oh, Cora Cadwell's
sister.
I was telling you that, like, I danced for Mr. Bolton at the start, but then we moved house, and it was such a journey to get in, and there was no animosity or nothing why I left Mr. Bolton, but I ended up with, I don't know whether you'd ever met Phyllis Mead.
No.
Phyllis is a wonderful dancer herself, and she danced for Ita.
Yeah.
It was funny, like, I danced for Phyllis then, like most of my dancing career. Great memories with Phyllis, all the shows we used to do and everything together. But when Phyllis retired from teaching at a young age, and I ended up dancing the rest of the little bit that was left with Ita. you know, but it's funny, like you remember the things from different people, but I tell you, anything I ever learned from Aisha Cadwell is in my mind to this day. I was just saying that to one of my dancers yesterday when I was showing how you do a drum. And I thought about how she used to show us how to do that drum and all. So it's funny, like the different memories you have of different things, you know, and the connections.
Yeah. And how do you think that that Irish dancing has changed since you started, really? Have you seen a massive change in Irish dancing? Because I think we're around the same era in dancing. I would have been a few years younger, say, than I would have been in Celine Wiley's age group.
Right, so Celine Wiley would be younger than me, yeah. I've seen a massive change, you know, I just think the amount of work you have to do to be a dance teacher has increased tremendously, not just in the teaching, in everything that you do. You know, it's not, I'm not saying our teachers worked hard, obviously, to get us to teach. I think just the dedication for kids who really want to do it is sometimes underestimated. It is a sport. Unfortunately, we don't like to hear that. It's a beautiful sport, but it's a sport that demands the same training as an athlete, you know, if you want to do it at the top, you know, top level. But I find that the hardest thing to deal with is it changes so quickly that you think you're really one step ahead of the game, and you go and you judge something, you think, wow, where did that come from? And that sometimes scares me a little bit. I think that I'm very innovative. I love creating material. I create all our material. It's what I've been able to do all my life. It's probably my best talent. I'm not an amazing dance teacher. I'm a more choreographer. Once you've learned the step, I get bored and I want to move on. And I want to leave Philip, and we have another teacher in our school, Eileen McGinley. I leave them to drill it. I don't want to look at it being drilled. I just want to keep making it up and changing it and changing it.
Yeah, and I'd be a driller. I'd be somebody now in a class that would drill and drill and drill and drill forever.
Eileen would be the driller. When we taught in Dublin,
I don't like making up things.
Fortunately, Elaine Kavanagh inherited my choreography love. So her and I used to be able to choreograph steps, and then we'd leave it to Philip to come in and say, I don't like that. I hate that bit. And
I'd be Philip now.
Well, we would argue, and then we'd end up saying, Elaine, you know, he's right. We better just fix it, but don't tell him. Or even now I say to the girls, Mr. Philip doesn't like that piece, so we're going to change it, but don't tell him, and hopefully he won't notice. And then you can just like, see, I told you it needs to be changed. So I think your question, going back to your question, what has changed most, I think, is just the amount of dedication that people do. But I haven't learned to teach any differently to when I was taught. And most of the people of my generation, whether they teach in the Pogols, CRN, wherever they teach, we all were brought up the same way. So we all learned our dancing in the same way. But I just think it's changed worldwide. It's become a worldwide phenomenon. Thank God, you know.
Do you, how much of that do you attribute to the man in the picture there with you, Terry and Philip?
Oh, so much. You know, Irish dancing was always an amazing art form, but it was confined to our own little village, you know, which was a big village in some places. But Michael Flatley and Riverdance and Lord of the Dance and all those shows definitely brought it on the market for everybody. All of a sudden in Ireland, to be an Irish dance teacher was very cool. You know, people took it for granted.
And sexy.
Can we have a few dancers for the show, and we'll give them like lemonade and crisps? Really? No, I don't think so. You know, I'm sure we all did that. But it made it a worldwide phenomenon. There's dancing in countries that you would never dream of having.
Lemonade and crisps.
Well, that's what they do. Yeah. We'll have some lemonade and crisps for the children. Yeah, isn't that nice? Yeah.
Now they have to have sprung floors.
Oh, sprung floors.
And they won't dance at a competition unless there's a full 40-foot stage built. I mean, I have a 40-foot stage. Brian Hoban, Linda Ball's husband, makes my stage every year. And you think to yourself, the amount of times I danced in Bunratty on flagstone floors, practically did my ankle in a few times, went through a glass stage with Ger Stack when he spun me on it. They had a glass stage, my leg went straight through it, and I had to rip it out. I didn't even think, I just pulled my leg out. You wouldn't do that now.
Just Mary, we used to dance, and Terry was on it too. he danced on shows with Phyllis when he moved to Dublin, but Phyllis kept dancing herself right up. She was still a beautiful dancer till she decided, right, I'm not getting on the stage anymore. But we used to dance a show in the Bramer Rooms in Dublin for years. Austin Gaffney was the singer and we were dancers. But they had this glass stage.
Why, I don't know.
Every night they treble and stamp, and the next thing, crack. The manager would be yelling at Phyllis your dancers are breaking the stage again. Well, what do you expect? It was a glass stage, and do you remember that, Terry? Nearly every second night, the glass would crack. And then Phyllis would be like, tennis, would just try not to break that glass.
Yeah, but this was in the Pogue Castle, and they had this lovely glass center to it, to lights underneath it to reflect upwards to the costumes. And we were dancing, and Jerry spun me around, and my leg went onto the glass. It was unfortunate that it actually landed in the glass, but most of the stage was glass, and right through up as far as my hip. It was a French audience, and all I could hear, everything was in slow motion. All I could hear was, and I just dragged my leg out and continued on without missing a beat. And they were all running to me. Are you all right? Are you all right? This was, of course, thank God we weren't in a litigious society.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was shock or not, but I just kept dancing.
Well, the show must go on. Yeah, that's what you're taught.
Would always go on in the Bramer Rooms when we would break the glass, but it was the way they would tell Phyllis off every couple of nights that we were breaking the glass. But I don't know what they expected. And in those days, Mary, remember, it wasn't fiber tips. Most of us had all the nails.
I started off with the nails on my shoes, but then we were only talking, June and myself yesterday, June Deegan, we were talking about the Anella and Davida heavy shoes. I used to get them from England, and the Antonia Pacelli.
Yeah, they were gorgeous.
And my grandmother used to buy them in England, and I had everything in Ireland before, in our area before, one being an only child, I suppose, and two, my family being in England. Things came out in England before they came out here. So I can remember Rose Sheehan with O'Rourke. She used to go to England to get the costumes made for O'Rourke's, for the girls. She'd take their measurements inside in the class. She'd go over to the UK and have the costumes made and bring them all back. England was the happening place at the time for getting all these new costumes and the new shoes, the Antonia Pacelli and the Anello and Davida. But they were the heavy shoes I was wearing, and they were the fiberglass. Do you remember those?
Yeah. Well, we were lucky that we used to have our shoes. When I was in Glasgow, we had an amazing shoemaker who just retired very recently. But then in Dublin, we were very gifted that we had, first of all, Connolly's Shoes was the big shoe store. And John and Connolly's is where you went for your shoes. And he only retired a couple of years ago. And then, of course, we had Faye's. So Pat Faye and Dan Faye, who you know now, Mr. Faye used to make my shoes. So Pat's dad would have been the guy we bought all our shoes from. So it's kind of funny now that they live in New York and we get our shoes from there. So we were very fortunate. But we used to have double-soled shoes with nails, and they weighed like 20 pounds. So when fiberglass shoes came on the market, it was like you wore nothing. It was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, they've changed so much. And I suppose when you were really small, and I'm only 4'10" now. I used to hate having to put on the heavy shoes when there were the nails, because they were just so heavy. And then you'd have to bring them down and get the nails replaced. And as June said, they destroyed a hall floors, and it was her husband Dennis that actually came up with the idea for the fiberglass, and himself and another man actually started putting the fiberglass on shoes. And she said, if only we had marketed them then, how much money would we have now? She said,
you'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. Think of Gainey's shoes.
David Gainey's shoes.
With the silver heels and all.
Yeah, I love the sound from them. Absolutely. And June was only talking about that, the hollow, she said when Marion Turley brought in the hollow heel with Celine Wiley, and when Celine would do a slow click, June said, oh, I have to have those shoes. So she went and she ordered the shoes to be the heels to be hollow, so that she could get that hollow sound. You know, these were all revolutionary people when you think about it, you know, in dancing, the likes of Marion Turley, June Deegan, bringing in ballet. As Maura Clarkin said there earlier, it was June that started to bring in the ballet movements into it. Now, I danced on the tips of my toes anyway, and I ended up with toes that went under because I had very high arches. But it was natural to dance on the tips of my toes, and you know, I couldn't do it in the heavy shoes because they were they had the nails, and they were just so heavy. Now they're practically like light shoes. They're so light.
Oh yeah,
and then with the hollow heel and the silver heel. I mean, I was talking to David Gainey. Did you see the interview?
Yes, I did. I just wanted, I will not get fed up saying I wouldn't think David Gainey could wear anything he wanted to, and he would just be amazing.
Just spectacular.
Amazing dancer. But not only that, we had the pleasure of meeting him last year on the Cherish the Ladies Cruise.
Great guy.
He's a gentleman. He is a gentleman. He did kind of an interview thing for us for our kids when COVID just started, kind of motivational thing, and did some little moves, and just amazing, an amazing ambassador for dancing. So, you know, his teachers must be so proud of him, because we're very proud of him in our dance world.
I think anyone that loves Irish dancing and appreciates good Irish dancing is proud of David and all of the dancers that are bringing pride to this industry. But I mean, David he's exceptional. I mean, it's just an inherent sense of rhythm and an inherent sense of movement. And we were talking, and I was brought up, I suppose, with the show musicals and that, and the Nicholas Brothers. I loved the Nicholas Brothers, and if you haven't seen them, go watch their movies. The dancing is just sublime. And then you had Jean Kelly and Fred Astaire, and he said, it's funny, he said, Mary, they were the people that inspired me, the Nicholas Brothers particularly. He said, I just wish I could actually replicate in a Irish dance form the Nicholas Brothers, but I don't think I'd be able to do them justice. They were just superb. But he was saying he breaks down the music, he splits the music from the rhythm. So he takes away the harmony from the beat, and that's where he can actually he isolates it technically, and that's how he can actually find the rhythm to actually to get into the
He's amazing.
the dances. It's just I don't know how he does it in those quadruple clicks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just mesmerizing. And I actually think what's lovely are the collaborations he's doing.
Fantastic.
You know, it just shows the extraordinary talent. You know, I get so annoyed when I hear people talking about the costumes and the wigs and the fake tan and trying to, I suppose, not being able to understand the talent that's actually beyond the costumes and the wigs and the fake tan.
Well, isn't that the whole thing? You can have as much false tan, the most beautiful dress in the world, and a wig, and if you can't dance, you can't dance.
You can't dance.
Yeah, and people don't understand that. I mean, as a judge, we're all adjudicators, and we know that first impressions mean a lot. So when you come out on the stage and you look good, well, of course, it makes an impression. But once you point your toe and start dancing, that impression is very clearly made for a second time. And it doesn't matter how nice your dress is, or how good your shoes are, or if you had 20 sets of, you know, fake baked tan. Doesn't make you a dancer. It doesn't. And
you'd see a child coming out and you'd say, oh, please, dear God, please be good. Because they look absolutely fabulous. And you're just saying, please be good. Do you know, because you're saying to yourself, you know, they look phenomenal. They walk out on stage, the feet are beautiful, and then suddenly they start dancing and the feet go in, and you think, oh God, you know, and they look so spectacular. Then you can have a child coming out in a simple black dress or a simple dress and their hair down, and then they dance and everything is perfect.
But Mary, I think that, like, I feel we have some amazingly talented dancers right now, from young kids right up. I mean, the videos that have been made, and, you know, as you said, what David did with different dancers, like, this COVID-19 has brought out just the natural dancing in dancers. We have amazing dancers, and like, all of what we've been watching the last number of months while there's been no competitions to go to was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen some beautiful dancing on Facebook, and
oh God, yeah.
God, this is fantastic, you know.
It's also brought people, in a strange sense, closer together.
Yes.
Terry, I mean, I've known you for many years. I haven't judged with you, Philip, but I've judged with Terry at the London qualifiers. We had a great time at that, and you know people very well, and you know people to salute and to talk to, but never to really sit down and have a chat for an hour about what makes a person tick, and what it was that brought them to this place in their life, whether it's personally or professionally. And I think having to be forced into using technology in this way, none of us used Zoom beforehand, but I'm sure the same with your dancing, because Niall O'Leary was saying, in a strange way, it's helped children who have had to work on their feet, because you can focus the Zoom on their feet and get them to look back at it and see, look, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do, and then maybe focus it on the upper body. So you're actually focusing attention on smaller areas rather than traveling, because you can't do traveling anymore. You can, but concentrating. It must be a joy for you, Philip, as a driller.
Yes, it is, because
not so much for you, Terry.
No. Trying to make up new material on Zoom and getting the dancers to do whatever. But for me, yes, it was good, because you're able to spotlight the one and say, okay, cross there now, cross at the back, you didn't do whatever, and I think, I don't know, some of our dancers, I find, have had a big improvement since Zoom, because they really focused on crossing and turning out their feet, dancing better.
Yeah, that's it.
And the downtime from competition has given dancers time to work on their dancing.
Yeah.
And focus on trying to be good.
How do you think dancing has jettisoned, if you like, in stateside over the years? Because you've seen it from the Kogol and CRN, was it?
Mm.
And on Coimisiún, and then you've gone to America post Riverdance, or was it pre Riverdance?
Yeah,
post Riverdance, and there, for me, I see, I can't get over the colossal chasm that they've jumped in America, and the standard, how it. We had it in Ireland and in the UK a long time before it really came to America. And now suddenly the American dancers are just superb. They're just, the standard is just astonishing.
Well, we were both very fortunate that we worked in America before we ever moved.
Yeah.
So we were hired to come as workshop teachers to various schools in America. And I would have to say, any of the schools I worked with, I was given amazing talent to work with.
Yeah.
So when you're given the right tools and the right fabric, it's easy to create what you do.
Yeah.
But American dance teachers live, eat, and sleep it. They work. I'm not saying Irish dance teachers don't, but here a lot of people, it is their sole business. It's how they make their living. So it's run as a business. It's run as a hugely intense, business. So Irish dancing, I don't think there's any corner of the United States or North America there isn't an Irish dance teacher.
Yeah.
And the standard of dancing back when I started dancing and came to the world first, there was always good American dancers, but there was the expense of getting here. There was the inability to be able to watch, what was going on. And like, we live in a shrinking world, and everything became much more accessible. And just by hiring the right people, by being amazingly good dance teachers and drillers themselves, we have in North America some of the most amazing dancers in the world.
Yeah. And yes, it is a lot. I suppose it is a lot. It's got everything to do with hard work, because they say, the saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And the Americans, they just have that drive to succeed and be the best at everything that they do. And I think in turn, they've created that that spill-off effect that everyone sees, what hard work can bring you, and everyone wants to work hard. And it has improved, I think, the work ethic in Irish dancing, because for a long time, Irish dancing was something you did as a hobby. Right. Now it's a hobby for some still, and it'll always be, because, it's expensive. It's very expensive, and to do it at the top level. But for many here in Ireland now and in the UK, it's become just as much of a business as in the States.
I agree, Mary, because like when we taught in Ireland, it was funny. There were so many dancers who came to our class that didn't even want to be in a competition. They just came because they wanted to learn to dance, enjoy to dance. Like I always remember one of the fetishes we had in Clondalkin, in the Irish school in Clondalkin. And there was a beginners competition on, and there was like maybe 20, 30 kids lined up ready to dance. And then all these boys were on the line, 8 or 9 boys. And then Elaine and Terry were at the side of the stage, and they go to me, God, look at all those guys. Who owns them? And I said, we do.
Who owns you?
Like, not who do they dance for.
I know, who owns them? It's such an Irishism. Who owns you?
Exactly.
They didn't even know. I said, we own all them. But it was an Irish thing, who owns them? And people still say that, even like, who
owns you? It's not like, who teaches, you don't say who teaches you at all. Who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? But do you think it's gone? We were talking there now about expenses and things like that. Do you think it's gone prohibitive for a lot of people financially?
I think it can be prohibitive if you choose it to be. It's a thing that I never like hearing people saying, oh my God, it's such an expensive hobby. Here in America, children do lots of other activities and they're equally as expensive. I've just finished watching a series called Baby Ballroom. I don't know, did you see it?
No.
It's filmed in Wolverhampton in England, and it's a world champion ballroom dance studio, and it's absolutely amazing. So many similarities to our dancing, from, makeup, hair, dresses. And when I listen to how much money those people spend
on several costumes.
We have children here who do, they call it horseback riding. I don't know why they call it horseback riding. Where else would you ride on a horse? But in America, it's called horseback riding. Yeah, it's like, not horse riding.
And the sidewalk. It's not it's not the pavement.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other language you have to learn. But I mean, people who do that own horses, or they rent horses and they do all of that. So I always think Irish dancing at its lowest level is the cheapest thing you can ever do.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. People have said that to me, and I said, you could spend a lot of money trying to bail your son or your daughter out of jail. After spending a night on the street, maybe drunk with his friends, or would you rather spend a few €100 or a few thousand, as it happens, on a costume for them, know that they're. I mean, with us, our parents knew where we were every minute of the day. They knew we were either at dancing class or at a feis with them, and if we weren't beside them, we were in another room, but they knew where we were at all times. You can't.
But I think Patsy made that point to you, Mary, as well. Patsy said you know, from your children are 5 to they're 50, if they're involved in dancing with you, you know exactly where they are. Would you rather have that, you know, as not know what they're doing?
Yeah.
Maybe that show, though, that Terry told you about, that baby ballroom.
Yeah.
Interesting for Irish dance teachers and dancers, if they haven't seen that, to watch it, because there's one main difference in it. And it's a funny thing that would never happen in the Irish dance world. Number one, they can go to 6 or 7 different teachers. Like I could go to you on a Monday because you're good at tango or whatever.
Yeah.
On Tuesday for my waltz. And then the most interesting thing I thought of all was that all your teachers can then judge you when you're in the competition.
Myself and June were talking about that yesterday. June was saying that when she started dancing, I think she said it was Peter McNiff. Oh, no, it wasn't Peter McNiff. I forget who she said now. I'll have to look it up again. That actually came and gave. No, it was actually Patsy that said that. I forget who she said actually taught her inside the class, and he wasn't her teacher at all. But he came in. I think it was Peter McNiff.
No, Jerry Mulvihill. It would have been Jerry Mulvihill.
Jerry Mulvihill. Yeah. And he came in and he taught her a step. And I said, you couldn't do that now.
No.
You know, because the minute you would actually park your backside on a seat just to have a chat with somebody, somebody might say, oh, Philip Owens or Terry Gillan were inside in the class yesterday. And you might only be sitting down having a chat with the teacher. Because you passed the hall and you said, oh, sure, I might as well drop in. And things could be misconstrued. And straight away, you're slapped with being associated, or, you know, it has lost, but I think it's gained again now with COVID-19, because people are all starting to chat and we're realizing just how much everybody is in this for the same reasons. And we all have the same absolute passion for Irish dancing. I mean, I don't think I ever wanted to do anything else. You'd wake up during the night and you'd have, I was never a step maker upper. You like that, the step maker upper. I was the driller. But strangely enough, I used to wake up in the morning with the best of steps, and Mom used to say to me when she'd come into the room, my legs were going under the covers, because my brain was constantly going around dancing. Same in class. Never listened in class because I was constantly thinking of dancing, and it's an obsession that we have, and we try to get away from it at times, and you successfully break for maybe a couple of months, and then you step once inside in the hall and you're back in. It's like,
Mary, when Terry and I don't know if you know this, you may or may not, when we left Connecticut and gave up our school in Connecticut, we retired from teaching.
You did, yeah. And I didn't give that 5 minutes.
Yeah, decided we weren't going to teach anymore. Came down to Florida, and Stephen Scariff, who's originally from Galway, teaching here in Tampa, and called me every day of the week just saying, look, would you just come in one day? I just want to take a day off, and I've nobody, and I'd love to take one day off. And Stephen makes dance costumes too, and he was very busy. So I started going one day a week, and one day a week became 2.
You were back in again.
Do it then. Stephen was moving away to Las Vegas, and Terry and I were left taking over the school. So the retirement lasted, I don't know, it even lasted a year, Mary.
I didn't even give it that long. I gave it about a week, long enough for you to
Mine did last. Mine lasted a year. Mine lasted 1 whole year. I didn't go inside the door of a dance studio.
Really?
No, I didn't go near it. I just had... I have another career. I have another job as well. I mean,
you're an accountant, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I am a finance manager, for a soccer association up north in Connecticut. So I concentrated a lot on making that remote, because I work for a Connecticut company in Tampa. But no,
I don't know if you know a cousin of mine. He's a coach with Seattle, Tacoma. Joe Waters. He played for Leicester City.
Right, and it'd be the same kind of stuff, but he'd be on the other side of the coast. He
scored the only 2 goals for Leicester against Queen's Park Rangers on his debut.
But
and
I'm
played
sure
for Ireland as well.
my fellow employees would definitely know him because I work with a lot of soccer coaches, lots of them.
Yeah, he's
But
there.
yeah,
He's there for 30 years, and he's with the same team 30 years. So
Well,
yeah,
that's a big, and it's so weird that we call it even soccer, because for me it's football. You know, I was brought up in Glasgow, so it's football. So it has a whole different language here, soccer and uniforms, and you know, it's just a new vocabulary. You know,
we call it the kid.
yeah. When I first went there, and the kids need to get their uniforms, and I'm like, what do they wear a uniform for? And she's like, their uniform. I'm like, well, it's like a marching band. What is that uniform?
You know,
Where I come from is a football kit or a football strip. Is
you
what
know,
we wore.
Jackie Charlton died.
Yes, yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But he was amazing.
So sad. He brought such pride to Ireland, you know.
Yeah.
Thing in the United States, a lot of girls do soccer.
Yeah.
More so, and of course, our ladies soccer teams won the World Cup.
That's right. And Joe teaches in Tacoma. He has there's a ladies soccer, and his teams have won for the last a number of years. But yeah, he's never.
That's a hugely successful soccer.
Yeah. But how did you get? You got together anyway. In what year? I had the two of you, you and Terry.
Talk about that, Terry, or you?
1980.
80.
Is that now because you couldn't remember the year?
No, I know. The only reason I know, I never remember the date correctly, but so this year, Philip and I are together 40 years and we're married 10 years. So, and it's all in the month of October. And we actually met at a COGAL convention. Philip was getting his teacher's exam. They have a graduation ceremony like Commission have now. I had mine the year before, and I was on the organizing committee of that convention.
So you passed your TCRG in COGAL?
Yes.
And then transferred over to Coimisiún?
Yes. And I did my AD in the Commission. Philip did his TC and AD in COGAL.
Isn't it a nightmare of an exam?
Oh, yeah.
The stress you put yourself under.
Well, I was very lucky because I was able to avail of the wonderful services of Molly Farrelly. She was my mentor.
Lovely, Molly, yeah.
She was my mentor for my exam. And I was more afraid of Molly than I was of going to the exam. Because the other thing I had to do was...
Seamus was so lovely, Seamus.
Seamus was my help for... I don't speak Irish because I went to school in Glasgow. But I had to do an Irish exam. And God forgive me, I remember Seamus saying one Wednesday night in Molly's, they call it the garage. I used to call it Molly's studio, but it was her garage and it was an amazing place. So Terry, I'm going to help you with your Irish. And I was like, Seamus, with no disrespect, I find it really hard when you're speaking to me in English because you've such a strong accent. I'm like, I won't know what you're saying. I won't have a clue. So the poor man wrote me a syllabus that I brought then to Philip's friend, who was a teacher in the Gillen school in Rathcoole. And she taught me my Irish for my exam. But to me, it was just another language. And the funny thing was I did my Irish exam at the World Championships because we had to do it pre-exam. And Sean O'Donnell, Lord of Mercy on him, was my Irish examiner. Who spoke such Dublin Irish, and I could kind of understand him. And at the end of the day, he's like, so who taught you your Irish? And I said, oh, my friend. And is she from Donegal? And I said, yeah. He's like, you speak it with a Donegal accent. And Seamus McAnally started laughing. He's like, and you couldn't understand me? Are you kidding me? How did you understand the Donegal woman? But yeah, I was lucky for my AD that I had lots of help from Molly. And so by the time we got to our exam, although it was a hard exam, she had really prepared us all really, really well.
But Terry, I went in for the Irish exam. Now, my mother was fluent and Munster Irish, but because I came from England and the nuns I had were, I just couldn't focus on Irish at all and maths in school. But I went in and Orlin Ivrian wrote 2.5 pages about Mary Honan. Coming from England and her parents moving back to Ireland and blah, blah, blah. And she wrote it all out for me, 2.5 pages. And I learned it off by heart. And I went in and Mr. O'Donnell, he says to me, Dies Miragot, how are you? And I said, Morin Yonan Sanam Dum Tom Truckas enably indeed Rugukit May Sasana, and I went off on a tangent for 2.5 pages. he was looking at me, and I could see him looking at his watch and just glancing down, and he went to ask me a question, and I took a breath, and just as he was about to ask me a question again, I continued. So at the end of it, he said, well, Garamahagut. So never asked me a question, only how was I?
He was a great man. He was a great man for making you like Irish, even if you didn't speak it. He never made me feel inadequate. He always
I sounded fluent, Terry. I sounded absolutely fluent because
I'm sure I did. I sounded just like I came from Gweedore.
Nobody could have told me what I said, but I sounded fluent. If you ask me, I did know what it meant because I know it. I still know it to this day. I kept, every time I went up to Dublin, I was reading it on the train, and I still know it. Or I couldn't believe that I still know it to this day, the whole lot of it. And I
would know mine if I thought about it. I think I would know mine.
Huh?
I think I would know mine as well, because Seamus used to make me recite it all the time, you know. So yeah, I think I'd still know mine.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? You got together, and if we run out of time, I'll send you another code. But you got together. How do you feel? Were you really proud when same-sex marriage or marriage equality came in?
Yes.
You were able to marry.
I was, Mary, and you know, although the state where we were living in approved it, you know, and that's why we, you know, got married. And one of our friends at the time, Dr. Steve Sharnick, was an anesthesiologist and told Terry and I that we should get married because, you know, one of us was to get ill, that the other person could make decisions and all of that.
So important.
Even more proud, I have to say, Mary, when Ireland was the first country in the world to vote same-sex marriage in by their people, not by courts, but by their people. I remember that day so well, and I was so proud to be Irish. Do you know what I mean? When that happened. So the answer to that would be very much yes.
Yeah, yeah. And how about you, Terry?
Yeah, it was always one of those things that we kind of thought about, and then, you know, as we got older, it just made perfect sense. We lived in the state of Connecticut, which was one of the first states to allow it after Massachusetts, and you know, as any excuse for a big party, so we had, you know, but people in America don't get married during the week like Ireland. People get married here always on the weekend.
Really?
So we had, we always get married on Saturdays and Sundays. So we had our wedding on a Monday, and that kind of threw a spanner in the works for everyone, because everyone teaches. But, you know, we had our wedding, we had 50 of our best friends there that we decided that's what we were doing. And to this day, if you ask any of them, it's just referred to as the best Monday ever, you know? So it seems like it was yesterday, but it's actually 10 years ago in October 4th. So it's kind of weird that it's 10 years married and 40 years together. So, you know, which one is it? You celebrate both. But certainly when it came into Ireland, I was happy for the people who came after us. Philip and I would think an awful lot to do with the Irish dancing world that we live in, never felt ostracized or felt strange, or, you know, nobody ever made us feel any different to anybody else. There was always, and there's so many other couples in the same way. But for people who came after us, for younger people, when we felt that for us to get married sent a signal out to others younger than us, this is a good thing, we're doing it, so therefore why shouldn't you? And I do know one of our ex-students, Anthony Fallon, like a fantastic 4-time world champion, he got married, I think, like 3 times to the same person, obviously, but
like the idea of marriage.
Yeah, he wouldn't get married until it was approved in Ireland, and went home and was married on New Year's Eve, and then proceeded with the other ones. And for someone like him, we felt we had to send a signal out to all those people that, you know, I'm quite entitled to get married the same way you are, and to whoever I choose. And
you know, you brought a very good point up, both of you, about the importance of inheritance and even signing if it just say Philip got sick or Terry got sick, the other person has the right to sign as their next of kin. That's a very important statement, because if you're together 40 years, you'd have done 4 life sentences.
Correct. If I murdered him, I'd be out by now. Yeah,
out by now on good behavior. After 8 years, what 8 years? But neither of the two of you could sign the way it stood as next of kin.
No, not at all. The funniest thing we found at the start here is, though, although it's nobody thinks anything different of it. Sometimes when you're on the phone speaking to companies and you say such and such a thing, and your wife's name is not like Philip, and they're like, oh, Philip, yeah, it's not my wife. Oh, I'm sorry, because obviously it's your spouse or whatever it is. But I love when they say it, or is Mrs. Gillan home? I'm like, no, there isn't a Mrs. Gillan. It's Mr. Gillan. Would you like to speak to him? And you can hear at the other side of the phone, they're like, oh, But now it's so funny that even in that 10 years, they never say that anymore. If I call my health insurance company, and they'll say, and who is the other person on your policy? Is that your spouse? Is that your partner? They never use the word wife anymore. They very seldom use husband and wife either. It's always just your spouse. And I love it at the beginning, can I speak to your wife? Yeah, sure, here he is. And total silence at the other end of the phone. I'd
always say your significant other or your better half is your better half on. That way you kind of covering a multitude.
Cover everything, yeah.
A number of my friends would be.
I'm classed as the spouse. It's so funny because when Cherry set up the health insurance, I'm down as the spouse.
You're Mrs., are you?
The housewife.
So I don't know whether that means I'm really a housewife. I don't know.
Housebrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're just going to show some of your, at this point, we're going to show some of your drilling that you do and inside the class for your teams. How important do you think drilling is?
So important, so important. And where I would say to you, I'm not a driller as far as steps are concerned. I am a driller as far as teams are concerned. They have to be drilled, to perfection, or don't bother doing it. It's no point.
And that's what we're going to show now is Terry and Philip's team classes drilling. Do you think that you do that all the time? I've never seen that actually done until I actually saw your video. I never really saw people doing drilling as such for teams the way you've done it. It's usually drilling for solos, and that actually help you with. But yeah, I'd imagine it should also be very vitally important to drill as a team rather than to drill as an individual.
So what I was saying to you earlier, that we came out here and worked for very good schools when we came to work. Everybody brings something to the party, and those drills I can never claim, or Philip can't claim any credit to them. When I went to work with Mary McGing in Ohio, I was there. I had a great relationship there for 10 years. I had never seen team drills in my life, never seen them. And she did them. And I thought they were the most amazing thing I ever seen. And it made perfect sense. Drill your arms.
It does so that you see them.
Yeah. So I give all the credit to her and her team of teachers for inventing those, as far as I'm concerned, because we have never deviated from them. We use them all the time.
I never experienced team drills. Absolutely teams and constant repetition of team figures and movements and everything, but never the idea that you're drilling the same movements over and over again with dancers. And we'll be showing that now, and we'll be back after the drills. is really, really interesting to see that drilling being done. But
it's important, and we found during Zoom, it was a good way of getting all our students in the one place at one time. So we did, on Thursday evening, we used to do drill classes for solo dancing, and then we did drill classes for the Cayley, and all the little kids could do it, everyone could do it at the same time.
well, you know, you've just been upstaged.
Yes, these are the...
Philip has Candace Rose in his hand, and Terry has Delmar.
I have Delmar, and this is Delmar's good side, because Delmar, if I turn them the other way, I don't know how to do that. Delmar, oops, hold on. Del, turn
That's
this
his best side.
Yeah, there's the other side. He only has one eye.
What happened, Philip, Terry?
He got a disease just before we moved here, and we did have it treated by a specialist eye doctor up in Connecticut. And we discovered maybe 2 weeks before we were moving here, he was just grossly uncomfortable, not himself, you know, not a sound out of him. And we brought him back, and she advised that we would do this. So Philip and I decided he should have the surgery, and almost overnight, the minute the operation was done, he was like a new dog. He must have been in so much pain and so much discomfort. He actually had his surgery 1 week, and we moved to Florida the next.
He's 14.
And we were just very fortunate, because when he was in waiting on the surgery, it actually ruptured. So he would have died. So yeah, not a bother on him. He can't see a thing, and he can't hear a thing, but by God, can he bark and can he eat?
And he can smell. That's the most important thing.
Definitely.
He smells out the food. But where did you get the name Delmar?
Do you really want me to tell that story?
You can tell her.
Somebody will probably watch this and they don't even know it, but there was a very good dancer, you may remember her. She won the world for Mary Duffy and Nat Milady in Inishalga, and her name is Pauline Kavanagh.
Oh, yeah.
And Pauline Kavanagh became Pauline Kavanagh Jalmar.
Okay.
And Terry and I and Rona McCormick and a couple of Dublin people, we all thought the name Jalmar was unusual and funny, and you know, and I don't know if it was Ronan or if it was us or who, but we decided that Jalmar should become the code name for gay.
Okay.
So we went on a cruise with 20 dance teachers, Peter Smith, Joan Cass, Mary Bryan, Dennis Dennehy and his wife. There were so many of us on it for Tony Comerford's, was it his 40th birthday, right?
50th.
Well, no, Terry. Was it his 50th? Well, anyway, we went on a cruise for Tony.
He only looked 40.
And the group of us started using the word Jalmar. And like 2 guys would walk by and we go to each other, do you think they're Jalmar? And we'd say, yes, they are. Or, you know, this type of thing. So very shortly after we came home from the cruise, we got him. And we went, oh God, we'll have to call him Jalmar. So when I brought him to the vet then, she asked me the same question you just did. How did you come up with the name Jalmar? And I was like, oh my God, I just told her it was an old Irish name. I didn't go into it with her. So
good. Oh Lord, there, and exquisite. And Candace Rose.
Candace Rose.
Where did that name come from?
Well, Candace was her name. Candace, this one here is entitled. He was purchased, and he was like an entitled dog. He's like royalty. And Candace was a rescue. So Candace came from a very abused home down in the south. And the only consistency she had was her name. So when we got her, you can see there's a little scar, Philip has his hand out of there, where she was beaten by somebody. And she took a long time to get used to just normal life. So the people in the shelter asked us, would we keep her name? Because it was the only thing consistent with her. She reacted to Candace all the time.
The only thing good that they did was to give her a lovely name.
Well, I think the shelter really gave her the name. You know, I think she didn't even have a name. So she gets her full title. She is Candace Rose Gaelacha. She has both our names.
And show her dress, show her dancing costume.
Her dance. Mary, I have to tell you something I discovered. The same thing has happened to Candace Rose during COVID-19 that's happened to a lot of us. Her dance dress won't close on her.
He has COVID-19 pounds.
Hold on with your dress.
She needs to she needs to be putting it on a diet.
She's going to Unislim. She's going to Weight Watchers.
Yeah, needs to be put on a diet. So Candace, COVID-19 has affected her just as much as us, Mary.
He pee on you, Terry, or he said Delmar pees on him.
I think.
Yes.
Oh, I thought.
Look at her dress.
Oh Lord.
Her dress was made by a dancing teacher in Boston. Did you ever meet John Cunniff?
I know of him, yeah.
John, I think I don't know whether he still teaches dance in Boston. I mean, I talk to him from time to time, but John, when we got the colours of Gillan, made Candace Rose her dress and gave it to me. John Cunniff made it. So this is the first day, Mary, that I've gone to put it on and that it doesn't fit her. It always did fit her. So COVID-19 has not been good to Miss
He's got
Candace.
the COVID-19 bulge.
He does. She's not the only one in this house.
Isn't it fabulous?
Yeah.
Jesus, you know, you'd be absolute. You're addicted to animals anyway.
Oh, I love my dogs always. You know, Candace is the first female dog we ever had. Like when Terry and I lived in Dublin, we had Sam and George. George lived to be 18 and Sam lived to be 19.
And Michael Dillon is getting a beautiful dog.
Yeah, gorgeous. I seen it on Facebook.
Gorgeous. Looks like an old man with the with the beard.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's going to look like Steve.
Yeah.
Say bye, Mary.
Candace Rose.
Say bye, Mary.
Oh, I love her collar.
Yeah.
Patsy said to me, make sure now that you have Delmar's good side, that you've got get Delmar's good side because of his eye being missing. But I hadn't any photos that were actually showing off his good side. I'm not sure who was in the one that I'm going to. There's one. Who's that?
That is Delmar.
Delmar.
Candace.
Is that Delmar as well?
That's Candace with her. You can see Candace used to have red hair when she was young. That's Candace.
And the both of them.
Yeah.
That's here. That's in Florida. That's only a few weeks ago.
How are they adjusting to the heat?
Love it. These dogs love it.
Have you got a swimming pool?
In the complex we do, which is just across the street.
Oh, God.
Yeah. We live in a
Fabulous.
I'm just going to put him down.
the gate, and then there's all these villas, and then there's a community pool, but it's just across from our house. But Candace goes out in the patio area in the evening and she'll bake in that heat. I cannot stick to sit out there in the evening time, Mary. And she'll get up in the chair outside and she'll stay out there for an hour.
A friend of mine has a house in Turkey, big house, 3-story house, and he set up a kind of an animal rescue in Turkey. He's from Limerick. He was a prison officer in Limerick and a neighbour of mine. But yeah, he set up he set up the only Alcoholics Anonymous in Turkey, and he also set up rescue for animals. And he's got about 4 of them. None of them were his. One of them's his neighbours, but he spends every day with Tony because Tony feeds him. But the dogs are in the swimming pool all the time with him. And he has his own pool inside in his own house. But
because it's a community pool, like for the complex. But she bakes herself in the sun outside, though. She loves it, and he'll stay in the sun and never want to come out of it.
Patsy was saying Mary's blisteringly hot there in Florida. I said I'd take it. I've never been to Florida. I'd take the heat just to get away from this godforsaken, miserable climate here.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we moved from Ireland. I mean, apart from everything else.
Age walking out the door.
Yeah, just the inability to plan anything. Oh, we'll have a summer barbecue and it would be raining forever. So at least when we came here, we knew it was going to be sunny in the summer, and where we lived, it was going to snow in the winter. Now we're here, and it's just, we have sun all the time, and we just have the rain in the summertime. So,
Well,
yeah.
what's new for the two of you?
What's
Because
new?
you've done practically everything in the line of Irish dancing. You've packed so much into very young lives.
I don't know what's new. I think what the new normal is going to be is,
I hate that phrase. I really hate
we
that phrase.
don't know.
I mean, are we supposed to just wait around until they find this vaccine?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. And unfortunately, where we're living at the moment, people are pretty stupid about it. And we have gone from being able to reopen to, we're now the epicenter down here in Florida, because, you know, people are just not paying attention to wearing a
They're not
mask.
here either. I mean, Temple Bar was just jam-packed with thousands of people drinking the other day. And I interviewed Tommy Fleming, and he said to me, the theatre that I've performed in and packed out regularly is only 100 yards down the road, and it's locked up. No one can go in, even with masks, and they're sitting outside Temple Bar drinking and hugging each other. And
so we look forward. Nice for us this weekend that there is a fest actually taking place here in America over this weekend in Utah. Stephen is running it. Stephen Scarrow ran it yesterday and today. And it's the first fest to have, you know, the social distancing rules, and it seems to have going very well. We are supposed to have our own fest in October here in Tampa. So that's what's new for us. Is going to have to, it has to go on. We have to keep going. So hopefully, based on what Stephen's been able to do, we're going to be able to replicate it here and bring back some normality to our dancing world. But it does require that people are sensible. Like, people need to be sensible. We're sensible about it. Our studio is open again, smaller classes, more intense, shorter times, lots of cleaning. You know, we wear masks going in, we wear masks going out. We don't wear them at dancing school. And so far, so good. So apart from that, anything new? I don't think so. I'm getting too old for new things. I want to be old and retire. And
are you going to retire gracefully? Or are you going to be like June Deegan, who says she'll never retire gracefully? She refuses to.
No, I don't know. I think it might retire me. I think Irish dancing is the kind of thing you could stay in it till you die. Nobody, you know, you're still. It doesn't have an age thing, but I don't know.
Isn't that great, though? Isn't that great that it's not an ageist group, that people they can start almost from the cradle to the grave in dancing?
Well, Mary, I'm not going to talk about retiring again, because I tried that once and it didn't work. So if I say to you now today, I'm going to retire again,
we won't believe you, Philip.
What?
We won't believe you.
Yeah, I know. I think it just, you know, life just brings you what comes your way. Do you know what I mean? I mean, as Terry talks, the new normal for me is the same as the old norm, and I still have to wash the floors every day.
Oh, poor Philip. You really are a housefrau.
Yes, do you know what I mean? Like the dogs running around.
Cinderella. He's Cinderella.
And some days I feel like Cinderella.
I don't know how you keep the places yourself. And Jesus, Edward and Byron, their house looks like, and your dining room is just spectacular. You know, when you're taking the photographs of the dining room laid out, and looking at, I have house envy between yourself and Edward and Byron, and they having the three dogs on these gold immaculately cleaned seats. And I'm thinking, Jesus, mine are a mess outside, and they've only gone out for 5 minutes in the rain.
We judged in Columbus last year, and we went to Byron and Ed's house. Absolutely beautiful home. And Mary, you want to see the gardens in the place.
Beautiful.
Isn't it just gorgeous? It looks so picturesque. It looks so German.
Yeah, it's a German village, but it's just a beautiful area. They can walk to bars and restaurants, but just the house they have, it's gorgeous. And the gardens, oh my God, they're spectacular. But I don't know, they're probably just like me, Mary, like, because I know the dogs are around, and I never know what Jalmar's up to because he's old now. You know, he might pee.
He's peeing on Terry.
I wash all the floors every day just to be sure, you know?
Yeah. Well, listen, lads, it was just absolutely, I have had the best time of my life. I didn't want this to actually end because I really enjoyed it so much. I think it's the longest interview I've done so far. It's almost 2 hours.
Wow.
I know, and you know, it's just fantastic. I had a great time anyway. I hope you
Yeah,
did.
it was very entertaining. Thanks so much for having us. And I love the show, though. It's so nice. I love watching Patsy's interview. I watched a tiny bit of June's, but I need to sit and like concentrate on that because I think that she just totally amuses me. I just think she was
June is just
an amazing dance
just
teacher,
a work of art.
very innovative. I remember her back in the day of McGuire Way and going to the World and watching people like Anne Gallagher dance, and they were just like amazing dancers.
Anne Gallagher, lovely.
Yeah, you know, and June used to have like cute pieces in her material that were all from her ballet days, and you know, so I'm actually dying to watch the interview. And of course, she always had her totally June Deegan dress sense, which I used to love, totally love.
When I first got to know her or saw her around the place, I used to think that woman is never going to go old gracefully.
No.
And then we judged together in Stella Moore's Fesh and Mary Kelly. And Mary Kelly's husband had only died about 2 weeks beforehand. And I was fussing over her, you know, and she was, I'm all right, you know. And we judged, and June couldn't get up on the podium to sit on the seat, and I couldn't, because the two of us had really high heels and very long skirts. And I looked at her at one stage, and we still hadn't spoken, and I thought I'd found, you know, a kindred spirit, because, you know, she was just so fussy about everything being right, and you know, and walking, and we didn't talk to each other about the competitions in between. She was talking about Mary Kelly's husband, and afterwards, and John Roddy thought we were cogging, as he said, copying each other, because we had from 1st to 10 the same dancers from 1st to 10. Stella had to give three big trophies for first place.
Oh, I'm sure Danny Doherty loved that.
Danny was delighted, I'm sure.
The profit went up free.
It's all right, Stella said, that's okay, because there was a 3-way tie for first. And June said, isn't that fantastic? 3 happy children.
3 happy children, exactly.
So on that point, Terry Gillan and Philip Owens from Florida via Scotland and Ireland, well, via Ireland. Thank you both so much for being a joy on the show and for giving me the best 2 hours that I have had in a long time. It was.
Thank you, Mary. It was great, and hopefully we'll catch up in person soon.
Please, God.
Thank you
so much for having us. It was a joy. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And continuing with the show, we watch all of the different interviews you do. It's an excellent show.
Thank you.
Our person in touch with us so we can make a little sponsorship to the show.
You're very kind, and that would be fantastic, because the perfect show would be it's showtime. Okay. Because yeah, that would be perfect for the 2 of you.
Sounds good.
You're very good. Well, on that point, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Slán.
Slán.